Good afternoon. I'm Vishan Chakrabarty. I'm an architect, and I've been in Dallas a few times over the course of the last couple of years and really getting to know and love the city. And I was asked to talk about the physical city, and as an architect, I mean, it was tempting to show you a beautiful building that you could hire me to design, or a lot of people these days, where'd our slideshow go? We had a slideshow. Might be shadow puppets. And frankly, a lot of people in my profession have this kind of tendency right now to kind of propose one-size-fits-all solutions. You'll have many people come here and tell you that, every building should be green, everyone should be riding their bike to work, and, many of those things may be good and true things, but I also believe that every city is unique. And Dallas is a very special place. It has a very special energy to it. And so I really wanted to talk about something that was specific to the future of Dallas, and this idea that Dallas that it is and could become even more so a city of knowledge. Oops. Oh, we have a slide problem. We have a slide problem. Small problem. But you can get so this is a typical diagram of what we built in the 20th century. When Ta-Nehisi was speaking earlier about segregation, well, a part of what we did in the 20th century is we had this idea of a hub and spoke city. We'd have a central business district. Everyone lived around that central business district. You'd drive in the morning, you'd drive out. And it led to these sort of segregated pods. And that whole idea of the city is really breaking down. Yeah, there's a scrolling problem. They've all left the building. What we're building today, though, is this idea of more of a network city, that within a city, it's not about one central business district or two central business districts, but especially because of technology, we're breaking down all those barriers between what housing is, what working is, what playing is, and those are happening in clusters throughout our cities. And so it's not like every piece of land in the city is allocated for just that one kind of use. And we're really seeing that as a worldwide phenomena. Okay, I'm going to try to do this as best I can. This is really happening in large measure because of the nature of work and how the nature of work is changing, and how not just are the number of service jobs increasing, they're increasing rather dramatically, but also manufacturing is changing. The kind of higher tech, light manufacturing that we're doing in this country doesn't necessarily need to be separated and off in a field someplace away from housing. It can happen cheek by jowl with a lot of other urban uses. And so one of the things that actually there's a New York Times article about just a couple of weeks ago is the fact that most of the job creation we're seeing nationally is moving from suburban job creation to urban job creation. Austin is one of the cities that's really leading in job creation nationwide right now, and it's happening right in the heart of the city. Same thing is true for Houston, actually. Oh. Work so hard on these slides. And there's some Dallas-specific ones coming up. Okay, well, and part of why we're seeing that increase in job creation in the heart of our cities is that we're getting a lot of data now that says that innovation increases as people cluster. That basically, when you double the job density per square mile, we can actually track that the number of patents that we're seeing being filed and so forth is increasing in correlation to that density. Because people run into each other, they run into each other in the supermarket, they run into each other in places, they spark ideas together. And so we have a lot of data coming out around this. This way? Yeah, I was told go stage right. Let's try over here. All right, we're going to plan B. So they're going to scroll for me, so can we scroll forward? Right. Okay, well, this next set of slides, we're basically going to talk about the fact that, so what ground have we covered? Cities, jobs, growth is occurring, okay. Okay, so if you just look through these next 3 slides, you can scroll through these quickly to save some time here. So basically, a city, new residents come, they pay more taxes. The taxes, hopefully if they're invested wisely by their municipality, go into quality of life investments like public transit and parks and so forth. So scroll, please. Really? All right. Just go 2 more, please. 1 more. There. So the idea is that if a city is investing from the population growth wisely, it grows and actually can create more quality of life for its citizenry. And we're seeing this. And we're seeing this in various different ways. Dallas has made tremendous investments in terms of its public infrastructure, both by the private sector and by the public sector. And that's really about gaining more human capital. It's about attracting new people who create jobs and create new forms of industries. Scroll, please. Okay, but the kind of growth that we've seen, though, is still this segregated growth. We have this idea that you have a university, it's an isolated university, it's off a highway exit somewhere. You have a central business district, you have one kind of neighborhood, you've got another kind of neighborhood, and everything is all in these bubbles separated by highways. And that's simply not the way in which we need to innovate in a service-driven economy that's really about people coming together. So scroll, please. So the new city, this idea of a city of knowledge, is really one in which all of those different uses, universities, technology companies, government, business, are all clustered together, and residents, and we're all sort of learning from each other as opposed to living in those isolated bubbles. So scroll, please. So why is this relevant to Dallas? And if you keep going, is there a way to shrink the slide a little bit so you can see the whole slide? Maybe? Keep going, please. Just to the bottom? There you go. All right, so cities historically have been built around a single industry. In New York, it was Wall Street. In Washington, D.C., it was power. In Los Angeles, it was Hollywood. And they were sort of mono-use cities. And too bad you can't see these in the right. DC's built on a house of cards there. I don't know if you're noticing that. But scroll, please. But then a funny thing happened. We, in the last 10 years in New York City, have, through intense government effort, actually, completely altered the job base in New York City. We have some 300,000 new jobs that are primarily based not on Wall Street, but based on technology, fashion, media. And so the whole nature of the city is changing around that. Where people work in the city is changing around that. So the physical city is being completely transformed by the fact that those young tech workers that are coming to New York City right now, they don't want to work in Midtown. They want to work in cool old buildings and bike to work and do things in a fundamentally different way than what you see when you watch Mad Men, for instance, right? Keep scrolling, please. And so one of the questions for Dallas is, Dallas, which has historically been a city built around the notions of excavation and fossil fuel, could it become a city that's more built around, you've already built one of the most extraordinary cultural centers in the world. Could it be built around culture and technology? I did not come up with cute. Someone else in my office came up with cute. Please keep scrolling, please. And so why Dallas? And we're not going to see all of these, unfortunately, but Dallas has unbelievable assets, from future high-speed rail coming to a great international airport. I do some work in Australia. And other than Los Angeles and San Francisco, Dallas is the only city you can fly to Australia from directly. That's true, I think you have like about 50 cities flying out of DFW right now. That's extraordinary. That's a huge asset. So rapid transit, cultural infrastructure, educational infrastructure, public amenities, and then what you're not seeing over there are all these untapped resources, an extraordinary amount of undeveloped available land right in the heart of the city, fairly low taxes and low regulation. This is a dream for certain companies out there that are really looking to build and expand, and that's something that you should really think about right in the heart of the city. Scroll, please. And in terms of technology, I find these numbers fascinating. That Texas is not only the top one of the top 5 state export in terms of technology, but that it's the one that's growing the most. And that's obviously not just Dallas, it's Austin, it's the entire state. But that is every state in the country is jealous of what you guys are doing in terms of technology. And what that could mean for the physical city is enormous because, again, in the world of technology, one of the things we're seeing is that that era of the office park is dying. If you look at Silicon Valley, what's happening? Those tech workers don't want to go down to Silicon Valley anymore. They're reverse commuting from San Francisco. Twitter just opened its headquarters on Market Street. San Francisco is a very hard place to expand in. It's expensive. There's no land, people are anti-growth, taxes are high. So technology companies are starting to look elsewhere and think, where else can we build the future of our companies? And if I were Dallas, I would think about that strong and hard in terms of the opportunities and assets that you provide. Next, please, or scroll, please. Forbes recently rated Dallas number 4 behind, I want to remember that list, Miami, Seattle, don't remember what the third one was. The 5th is Austin. And Forbes talked about the fact that these are the different characteristics that these companies are looking for to actually find a home in a new city. And so you're right in there, and I would argue that in terms of competition with Austin, that again, there are things like the available land, the airport, it's an international city, and it's internationally accessible in a way that Austin is not. Keep going, please. So our firm, Shop Architects, won the Connected City competition that all of you hosted for the Trinity River Corridor. And if you could just go to the next slide, and maybe that's the corridor, of course, some 500 acres. You know it well. Next, please. And we had this idea of weaving the river up into the city. Next, please. Actually, weaving the city down to the river, and then next, please. Weaving the city back up, the river back up into the city. Next. And some of you may have seen this image that we produced for the Connected City. But one of the things, what we didn't know when we were talking about all of this is, what were these buildings? You know, who was going to use them? Were they apartments? Were they office buildings? And I think one of the things in thinking about this that I thought was very exciting was that this could be the platform for a new city of knowledge for Dallas, that this land, this extraordinary asset that you have, shouldn't be used for prisons and bail bondsmen, right? That it should be used, right? It should be used to grow your city in an extraordinary way as a place of knowledge, and I think the world would be amazed by it. Thanks very much.